Hey friends, so let's paint a photo study in 5 minutes. So setting a timer with this handy little iPad feature where you can just long press and set your time. And I have my Pinterest reference on the side there. I'm actually leaving it small just because in 5 minutes I won't have time to get into the details anyway. And it's easier to see the big picture in a way when it's very small. I'm always starting with this really rough, uncontrollable brush. It's just a standard Procreate brush called Turpentine, and it has some stupid mixing thing built in, which I just turned off. And then it makes really nice textures, and if you just tap with it, it can look a bit like foliage and stuff. But I just use it to get the colors in a rough way and not really getting caught up with details. Just getting established where everything is. And together with this turpentine brush, I also use the smudge tool with the stucco texture. I think it might be default, I don't know. But yeah, it makes it so when you smudge, it also adds a little bit of texture, which is nice and doesn't look so digital. So I've gotten so used to this process because I've done it so much in the past 2 years. So in a way, it's hard to describe my process because I don't really know how else I would do it or how other people would do it. But yeah, some ground rules for myself are just use one layer. You won't have time for more layers anyway. Just opening the layer menu is a waste of time, honestly. You won't have time for layer effects, and also the whole point of these studies is to train your eye to see the colors, so obviously no color picking, and layer effects can be kind of a crutch anyway, so training your eye to see the actual color is better anyway. And you can also see how I don't really zoom in, or I think I don't zoom in at all. I'm actually pretty zoomed out for the majority of the time. And the most I'll probably zoom in is to where I still see the whole picture. With these studies, I would never zoom in so far where I don't see everything at once. Going in with a bit more of a precise brush now. That's a brush I made myself. You can download it for free if you want on my Gumroad. I'll link it below. But yeah, it's just a basic kind of soft-ish brush, but it can still make a hard edge. Oh yeah, another thing is I never use the opacity control thing there on the side. I only ever control opacity by pressure. I do that with my regular paintings as well. I just think it gives me more control and more of a natural feeling while painting. And yeah, obviously all the things I'm mentioning here is just what works for me. It might work differently for you, but also with all these studies, I really found my digital process, and this whole process kind of emerged from the studies. So if you do your own timed studies where you just don't have time to think about anything and just have to do it, then you might actually find your own process that you could then apply to your longer form artwork. You can also see me using that second brush. I call it Airbrush Chisel because that's what it feels like to me. Sometimes I just make it very big and do sort of a color glaze over the whole thing, or sometimes a sort of value glaze, or both at the same time. If I want the whole area to, for example, pushed back into atmospheric perspective, I would choose a very light blue or something, or whatever suits the image, and then softly paint over it. And sometimes if I want soft shadows, I'll do the same, but with a darker color. And yeah, even with dark colors, I never go quite black. I'm sure you've heard this before. You're not really supposed to go completely black unless it's a stylistic choice. Yeah, I always just choose a very dark color and I still decide, is it warm or cool, or whatever I see in the reference. Sometimes it's not as clear in the reference, and then you're allowed to just make the decision yourself, as long as you still use a color. I would really recommend that. And at the very end, I'm going in with a hard-edged brush that also makes nice shapes and has good thin to thick variety. It's called the Franquin, and it's actually one I bought, so I can't give it to you, but I can link where I got it. And the Franquin brush is like one of my all-time favorite brushes. It just really suits me. It might do nothing for you, but that's the thing about brushes. They are important, but I can't tell you which one will work for you. And yeah, time's up. Oh, and by the way, if you do that pull down menu, I just now realized while recording, then it blurs obviously the whole background. Look how nice that looks. That's a really good way to check if you got the colors and overall values and the feeling and stuff right, if you blur it like that. So I hope that helped. I recorded a few more studies, and if you have any specific questions, please let me know so I can address them next time maybe. Bye. Tschüss, Kinder.